Welcome to this podcast. It's making me thirsty. The number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is episode 60. Today we welcome a veteran actress, director, producer, and teacher. You know her from TV's The Mentalist, Cold Case, Criminal Minds, Without a Trace, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and of course as Joanne, Elaine's coworker and friend in several classic season 5 episodes of Seinfeld. Please welcome Lisa Pescia. Lisa, thanks for joining.
Hi, you've done your homework. You know my whole resume.
That's right. We're pros.
We love your website, Lisa. Well, listen, welcome to this
Oh, yeah.
podcast. Is making me thirsty.
Okay.
As Tony introduced, you were Joanne, but actually you start off as Lisa on the first
Right.
episode of Seinfeld. But take us back, 1993. Obviously, you were a seasoned actor, but tell us a little bit how the role came about. 1993, season 5 of Seinfeld.
I wasn't a seasoned actor. And I had just done, I got a late start. So I had just done my first job, which was a lead in a Roger Corman movie. Let me just back up for a second. So I worked as a waitress at the Comedy Store
Oh, okay.
in the early 80s. That was when
Lisa, did I say seasoned actress? I meant seasoned waitress.
At the Comedy Store, really, in the early 80s?
in the early 80s, which was,
Wow.
the heyday.
Robin
And
Williams.
it was my first job in LA. I had just gotten there. And that's where I met Jerry and Larry David and all those guys. David Letterman was there, Jay Leno, Michael Keaton was doing stand up, everybody. Paul Mooney, rest in
Right,
peace.
yeah.
He passed today. He was there. Richard Pryor used to pop in. So it was a great time. Anyhow, I was only there for a couple of years, but I made friends with, some of the comics. And I had just gotten this first break in this movie, which was in 89. And it didn't go on cable. It was one of these, it was a it was a ripoff of Fatal Attraction. And it ended up on all the cable stations back then, Cinemax, Showtime. It was on HBO. It was on, they just kept rotating it, on all
Right.
these late night, things. And actually, that's what I discovered is that a lot of the casting people were just sitting at home watching TV late at night. And all of a sudden, because of that, people knew who I was. And so I started getting a lot of auditions. And this one audition, I was on the lot of CBS Radford, and I ran into Larry. He was like, he had already started Seinfeld. I think it was maybe like 1 year or something. And we were talking, and he was like, "So what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I got this thing, And the next day, he brought me in to audition for Seinfeld. I didn't ask
Wow.
him to. I mean, I just was genuinely happy for him. And, we had a nice conversation. I didn't say, "Hey, get me in on the show," or anything. I didn't even know anything about the show. So he brought me in, and I didn't get it. I was an idiot. I was like, that's why I say not seasoned, because I was so nervous that at the end of the audition, I think it was for one of Jason's girlfriends or something. And at the end of the audition, they were just looking at me. And I knew I was supposed to do something. I didn't know what, try to be funny or something. And
Right.
I'm not really a funny person. And I started doing a tap dance. And they must have thought, "Oh, she is like totally a maniac. She's out of her mind." So I didn't get that. But then they called me in for the other thing, and they just brought me in as Lisa because they knew me as Lisa. Larry knew me as Lisa.
Right, right.
So they brought me in for that. And I think I actually did my homework too. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, that was the Cigar Store Indian. That was the first one.
Okay, so that was shot. That wasn't the first one that aired that you were in, but that was the first one you shot, it sounds like. Because the
It
masseuse
wasn't the
aired,
first.
yeah, the masseuse aired before the Cigar Store Indian, but they couldn't have shot it out
Oh,
of order. We found out that
oh,
they do shoot these things out of order.
oh, so you guys know more about it than I do.
The season finale, we were just Howard was just telling was shot, first, and so it
Oh,
could have been out of
interesting.
order. But
Okay.
um, I'm interested in the Comedy Store actress gig. Was that something you were looking for a gig, or you knew let me go to the Comedy Store and meet some people that are it's a fun place to
No,
work kind of thing.
I needed a job, and I thought, well, I'm a pretty unfunny person. This would probably be good for me as an actress, to
Right, to
learn
get
something about comedy. Yeah.
very
And,
cool. Look what it
you
did. It
know,
landed you. Got you,
yeah,
Larry. Meeting Larry David, and
yeah. Well, he was struggling. I mean, he didn't, he was doing stand up. So, yeah, it was pretty equal footing. But the waitresses used to play a game. I can name that comic in one sentence. I can name that comic in one word. I can name that comic in one, because we all heard the act so many times that, we had
So
them down.
what was Seinfeld? I mean, so that was like late '80s. You kind of met him. I know
Early, early 80s.
early. So he's been on Carson though, right? He kind of got a foothold there a little bit. So what's the one word for Jerry? I guess the waitress would say.
No clue. I mean, there were only certain ones that I remembered. I mean, I think at the time, actually, I sort of have a memory that Jerry was doing Vegas then.
mm,
I don't know.
Hmm.
But I didn't have the same kind of connection with him that I did with Larry.
Right. Well, I mean, that's good because from everyone we talked to, Larry is kind of the meat and potatoes of the show. He kind of ran the
Yeah.
whole thing. But what's super interesting is all four of your episodes, and you were on season 5, which is probably our favorite
yeah.
season.
If you ask
It's
us today, it's our favorite season. It could
Oh,
change,
cool.
but
it's
five
the
is
it's the pinnacle. But all four episodes were written by people other than Larry David. So I'm just curious
Oh,
how involved was he on the set? What do you remember from each episode?
well, I have one distinct memory. I mean, in the beginning, not so much. I just said hi, whatever. He had Tom Sharonis as the director, and
Right.
I think what he was, Larry would be up in the booth, and he'd be giving direction down to Tom, and Tom would relay it. Um, and most of my stuff was with Elaine, so I wasn't ever really with Jerry. Um, the funny interaction is because when we did Close Talker, which is not Close Talker, it's called
the
Raincoat.
Raincoats. Yeah, yeah, with Judge Reinhold. Yeah, I
I
can't
had to,
know how you kept a straight face in any of those scenes.
what do you mean when he like comes
Yeah, when
in
he gets like
my
right up in front of
space?
you. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that was the thing. That was the time when Larry came down from the booth. So what happened was, we were doing the scene, and the first time he did it, I reacted just naturally, like you said. It was hard not to react, and I just slammed myself back like this because he got so close to my face that I slammed back and I hit the wall. Larry came down, and he said, "What are you doing, shtick?" But they kept that. That was the shot that they used. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you said before that you didn't think you were funny or you didn't have but I thought, I mean, every line you delivered was funny. The way, I mean, like wouldn't sleep with my back to him, poor kid, what an ordeal. Like you're lucky. You were like, you're almost like Elaine's nemesis. You were like,
Yes.
I look at almost
Yeah.
you're like Elaine's Newman, even though it was only
Yeah.
a couple of episodes where
Yeah. No.
but just by saying one line, you said exactly what was going to bother her. It was like, oh, you must be so lucky. Meanwhile, she hated the guy, and
Well,
like that kind of thing. It was interesting.
that was the thing. You said they were out of order, but yeah, the first one I shot was Cigar Store Indian, and then it was Joel Rifkin, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the
the
masseuse,
masseuse.
right? Yeah, and so that, I mean, I just listen. I was studying acting, and it's not like Seinfeld was set up like one of these yuck yuck kind of shows, where
Right.
you have to deliver a punchline or something like. I mean, you don't. I shouldn't say that. I don't know what I'm talking about, but
No, you're
basically,
100% right. It's not set up. It's not set up joke. Right, like most sitcoms are.
right. And it's more based in a real situation. It's the classic idea of what a sitcom is because it's actual situational comedy. And so in that particular situation, I was needling her. And, I just, when she said dating Joel Rifkin, I was just, oh, you better be careful, kind of thing. I mean, that just was like my normal reaction. But I guess what I'm saying when I say I'm not funny, I'm not a comic, I mean, I
Right.
was lucky that I was paired with Elaine and I got along really well with Jason because they're both actors, I mean, Elaine more came from an improvisational background, but definitely Jason was more theatrical and I felt at home there, but when I'd get around like Michael Richards, who used to be at the Comedy Store also,
Right.
that's just like a different world for me, and also Jerry, it was a little intimidating to be around those guys.
Well, yeah. Listen, funny's funny, and you were funny. And it's interesting. You were working at Pendant Publishing, right? A far cry from the waitressing days. So you were like that, that office nemesis
Yeah.
of Elaine. But you interacted with it like so. So just take me back again. So you had the audition early. Was that for a different season? And then remember what year that was? Because season 5, I mean, it moved to Thursday nights. It was kind of on all cylinders. When you tried out, was it for that one episode, or did you know you were going to do like 4 episodes?
Oh no, it was just for the one. It was just for the one episode. So then when I bombed on that first time and then they brought me back for the second one, and they booked me for Cigar Store Indian, then after that, I don't know, I didn't have that much to do in that episode, but they just, I don't know, Larry probably said, oh, bring her back, she can do another thing. And if you notice, let's see.
Yeah, you did. I don't. You didn't have any lines at Scar. You were just kind of playing poker with like Kimberly Guerrero, Peggy Lane, and
Yeah,
Elaine,
Peggy.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then from there, you had, I think, obviously the masseuse. You had the Joel Rifkin stuff,
Yeah.
which
And that was
spot on.
where they started pairing me with Hiram Caston. Do you know?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Have you talked to him yet?
Not
No,
yet, but we're interested.
Because I wrote him and I said, hey, I'm doing this podcast, do you want me to connect you to these guys? And he wrote back and he said yes. And
Nice.
and then I said, okay, I don't have your email. Send me your email. And I got this weird like spam thing, and then I wondered whether he was hacked or I don't know what happened. So I gotta,
yeah. We'll figure it out. At least, and if you could do the same with Larry David, that would go a long way.
if I could do that for myself, I would. Yeah. Yeah. He
Although,
also,
actually,
he also hired me on Curb Your
yeah,
Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
that
So that was one of our questions. Why you're on it? Yeah. How did that come about? He just said
Well,
same
because
thing,
I
sort of
I
like.
had I had done the 4 episodes of Seinfeld, and you get your residual checks, and the residual checks back then were quite large. As let's see, what year was Curb? What year did Curb start?
Around
Curb started in 2000,
2000, I thought. Yeah.
but you were on in what, 2011,
I don't
according
know.
to IMDb. But you were
Anyway,
on, yeah, you were in Seinfeld in 93, 94. Well, let me ask you this: do the residuals stay the same?
no, they get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I had a question around that.
Although that's why Hiram and I have been communicating lately because I don't know if you saw, but Seinfeld signed a big deal with
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And Viacom.
okay, and SAG, our union, made some kind of deal this year or last year for media for new media streaming for the actors. And so I said to Hiram, we should see some cash for this. I think this is going to be good once it goes to Netflix. So every once in a while he'll write me and he'll say, "Have you gotten any money yet?" Yeah. But
Yeah. Yeah.
oh wait, let me
Go
just
ahead.
back up for a second,
Go ahead.
just because it's interesting what they did with me. They started pairing me with Hiram, and Hiram is a stand-up comic, but Hiram did not intimidate me. Hiram and I worked well together, and I think it was like they felt like he would kind of keep me in check. You know what I mean? Like he would keep me. And so then they did the same thing on Curb. They hooked me up with this other guy, Wade Kelly. Do you know Wade? Have you heard of Wade Kelly?
No.
I'm not sure. No.
He's an improvisational actor more than a stand-up. But anyway, so he was my partner there. So they're always hooking me up with these guys that have a little bit more comedy background than I do, you know? But anyhow, wait, so where was I? Oh, on Curb. So I took all my, when you get your residual check, you get like the check, and then it's attached to the breakdown, the thing. So I took a bunch of those and I put them on top of each other like a collage, Xeroxed it, took a black magic marker and wrote, "Hey Larry, I love my Seinfeld residuals. Now I want some from Curb. Love." And I think back then, I don't know when I sent it, but I think I faxed it to his office because he had an office over here in Santa Monica. So I faxed. I don't know if he really got it, but then after that, I saw that they were casting for women in LA because that season that I was in, they were shooting mostly in New York, and they had these few episodes where they were going to be in LA. So somehow I got his email, and I'm not sure how I got his email, but it wasn't, I don't think it was really him. So I can't hook you guys up because I
His
think it
email's
was,
coveted.
I know, I think it was like an assistant or something, because I've tried to use it again and it doesn't really go anywhere. But at the time I connected to somebody and I said, "Hey, I'm here. I'm available for some of those women in LA, for the show." And Larry brought me in pretty much right away. He actually responded and he said, "Yeah, sure, let's get you in." And I heard you guys do an interview with another actor where he was talking about the audition process, and he was saying something about how they overreacted. I don't know if you remember. It was one of the ones I watched of
Yeah, I think
your.
that might be Pat Finn. I think it might have been Pat Finn.
Well, you were saying something. He was saying something about how they were so happy to see him that it was almost shocking, that they reacted that way. So when with the Curb auditions, they don't tell you anything. You arrive at the place at the audition, and they give you a little strip of paper that is basically printed out. The situation is you're at home, you get a knock on the door, it's Larry, and something something, and that's all and then you walk into the audition, and it's this massive room, or it was this massive room with a huge, like, semicircle of people sitting in chairs, and in the center Larry's standing there and on the stage, so you've got this thing,
Wow.
right, this semicircle, and then Larry standing there, and you walk up to Larry and you just start, you just do the thing. But when I came in, Larry gave me a huge hug. "So good to see you." It's, he was so just lovely and gracious, like no time had passed. And I think the people in the room were looking at him like, "Who is she? Why are you hugging her?" Anyway, it was fun. I just started yelling and screaming at him.
That's incredible. I mean, that's so great to hear how generous he was too.
Oh,
Uh,
he's so wonderful. And so is Larry Charles. I gotta say, that's how I came upon you guys, was because I follow Larry on Twitter.
okay.
Larry
Yeah, he wrote the
Charles,
Fire episode that you were in.
yes, and and it was Larry David, Larry Charles, and Peter Melman.
Peter Mellon. Yeah, we had him on.
Yeah, those three were the most, I would say, supportive and gracious to me,
That's
generous.
great to hear because they're top three for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like take us through like a day and like the interactions with a Larry Charles or a Melman like on set. Can you give us a little like insight into like a typical week of, the Fire, for instance? I mean, how like I guess my question is, how involved is Larry Charles in
Is
the
the
episode
writer of that
with
set. Is
the
he all,
actor,
yeah,
right?
is it just Sharon's and Larry David running the show at that point, or is he also getting involved because he wrote it? That's what you're getting at, right?
My memory, listen, my memory is, uh, I mean, you got to take into account, I was a little coming from the point of view of being a little fish out of water, on
Right, right.
this set. But what I remember is, hanging out at the craft service. The writers would always be kind of wandering around. It wasn't like they were in one place where you could just, grab them and start talking. But they'd be standing watching a scene or getting something to eat, and it's like you don't want to be obnoxious. You don't want to like push yourself on somebody. So um if it felt like they wanted to talk, you talk. And, I just remember connecting with Larry, and I connected with him again on Curb.
Hmm.
Um, you know, uh, Larry David was hysterical because it was a funeral scene,
Yeah.
and smiley face, the premise of the show,
Yeah, when he's
smiley
got the
face.
smiley face on his head with the suntan
Yeah,
lotion. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I just start railing at him. I mean, what got cut was this whole scene of me go explaining to Larry the significance of using a smiley face in your communication, that it was a way that, softens your communication, and therefore it's important, to be able to get, I
It's all
went through,
ad libbed, right? You're doing that
uh,
whole. It's all ad libbed too. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I heard the producers in the back, behind the video camera, I heard them laughing hysterically. And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to have this whole scene, kind of thing. And then it ended up, it was only a couple of lines, but whatever.
Did you?
Anyway,
Go ahead.
what I was going to tell you is that when we were doing, that was the milling around part of the funeral. And then the other part of the funeral was when we were actually seated, in the pews at the funeral. So Larry was seated behind me, um, a few rows behind me. And when we would go, it would be in between takes, he wanted to talk about uh, ancestry.com. So I was afraid of getting into trouble, because I didn't want to appear like I was, just screwing around. So he'd be like asking me questions about ancestry, am I really Italian? Do I know my Italian heritage, and blah blah blah. Anyway, it was funny. It's not so funny now, but it was
No, it's
funny.
hilarious. I mean, it's just I could picture him just not, especially in between takes, and you're trying to, at least concentrate on the what you're there for kind of thing.
Yeah,
He's running the show, so you're all right,
yeah.
no matter what he's doing, right?
He just wants to catch up, have a good
Exactly.
conversation. Yeah.
Um, was there anything like so that you were in 4 episodes of was there anything like that on the Seinfeld set where it was deleted scenes or anything like that with his background stuff? I mean, I was curious because you were in 4 episodes and you were just talking before about like residuals and things like that. Like, I wonder, you know, it almost worked out for you maybe in a way that you didn't get the girlfriend job and just be in 1 episode where
That's
they
true.
brought you back for four,
That's true.
I'm also curious, the second part of that, because you were brought back for four, you're, pretty much any scene in Elaine's work, you're going to be there. Hiram, is that how you pronounce his name?
Hiram.
Hiram. You and Hiram are basically going to be almost in every scene where they're at pendant, but then she loses the pendant job at the end of season 5. So I wonder if did they come to you and say, she's getting a different job, you're not going to be back, or was it more just like it was the end of the season and then you just weren't brought back, or
Yeah. I mean, I guess we didn't really have a conversation about it, but that makes
what?
total sense.
That's crazy
Huh?
to me. That's crazy to me. They wouldn't at least like let you know, like we're not. I know you weren't officially, I guess, on for a certain amount of episodes,
No.
but it was just like, so when they wanted you, they called you for those other 3.
Yeah.
Okay, it
It was
wasn't
it was
like you're
it
on
was
for
always
4.
yeah, it was like a pleasant surprise. I mean,
Oh, okay.
look, I was a reoccurring on General Hospital and Days of Our Lives
Right,
too. And in one of them, I can't remember which one, I was playing a hooker, and then they brought me back as a cop's wife. And then they just
right.
it's like they whatever. If they like you, they just bring you back for wherever they can use you. They
Mm.
all know everybody wants to work. So, you know what I mean? It's like they bring you back.
Yeah.
They
But
can.
there's no General Hospital podcast. You know what I'm saying? We're crazy about stuff.
Yeah,
So,
we're
so here's
diving
the
deep.
but you were in 4 like literally iconic episodes. Like I don't know, like maybe you don't think about that, but we do. But
Yeah, you
um,
guys, that's your
28 million
job.
people were watching this thing too, so it wasn't like
What that was
it was
that?
20 million people watching it too. So when I was there, so
yeah, it's
Well, Close Talker was nominated for an Emmy.
yes,
yes. So I guess let me ask you, what was your favorite of the 4 that you
The
were
Close Talker.
the Close Talker?
and
Yeah,
that
I
was
mean,
that was a
it's not
two-part. That
called
was
the
an
Close
hour
Talker.
the
episode.
Raincoats.
The
Raincoats.
Raincoats. That
Yeah,
was an hour episode. We had
yeah.
Melanie Smith on, who was also in that episode, um, and that's a two-parter. That was an hour long. I don't know that had anything to do with it, but it's definitely one of our
And
favorite
that
shows.
was written by Gamble and Prose.
Yeah.
They wrote the Raincoats and the Cigar Store Indian, and then Melman wrote the Masseuse, and Larry Charles obviously wrote the Fire.
Those are
So
heavy
yeah, I mean,
hitters right there.
just every. All right, and Lisa, you mentioned this. I don't know. I don't get a little personal here, but you also dated an old Seinfeld alum, the Calzone guy.
I married him.
Yeah, I
No,
thought that's what I thought. I'm like, what do you mean dated? I thought you married him. Yeah,
I did date him first. Yeah, that's true. I dated him and then I married him.
that's what
that's
I
just
thought
You
when you
guys,
that's
said
you
dated.
guys
I
are
was
going to
like,
meet him soon, right?
yeah,
that's
yeah, we're
right.
excited.
He's
Right. His
funnier than
later
I.
Seinfeld. Oh, stop! You're very funny. But here's the thing: he was in later Seinfeld. You were in
You were in
prime.
Yeah,
Prime season
yeah.
5,
I
Prime.
actually had to look that up. He was 96,
Yeah, season
right?
7. Yeah, season 7.
Yeah, 96. I made notes.
So
It is a good season 7 episode. I like it. O'Hara's a little sour on it, but yeah,
no, he was in a good
he was
episode
in
for
a good
sure.
episode. Yeah, for
He
sure.
was
Um,
funny. He
He
was
was.
great.
He was.
yeah, but
Yeah.
see, I think, and we talk about this with a lot of guests. I think that's the beauty of this show, right? Letting like guest stars shine. Um, and you certainly did. I know you're very modest about it, but I think you know your scenes were just we all remember them and they really shine. I think that was evident throughout Seinfeld, and I think Larry and Jerry made that like a key piece of everyone on the set. Like, but you felt that, right? I mean,
It's top
you
down.
felt that you could kind of do your thing, and you didn't have to like be reserved in any way, shape, or
Well,
form.
I think that's why I liked Raincoats the best, because I did feel in that episode like I could. I mean, I felt that way with the Joel Rifkin thing too, but that's very kind of you to say. I think in those two, I don't really remember the other one, uh which is it? The Fire. The Fire, you know what I remember is meeting John Favreau in the parking lot as I was leaving in my car and saying, "Hey, I didn't know you were the one in the class," that kind of
Right,
thing.
Yeah,
right, right.
Um, but I mean, all I did in that, you guys even quoted the line to me, but it was all I did in that was come in and tell Elaine what happened.
Right.
Kramer found the toe and then he sewed it
Right, right.
on
But
it or
again,
whatever.
you're
but
doing
that
such a great job, like doing that it's gonna that gets the laugh because it's bothering Elaine so much and the way you're delivering it. Like
Okay,
that's
well
what's getting the laugh.
that's great. You
laugh.
guys are making me feel good. So
and I think were you? I'm trying to think. Were you with
He's a Judge Reinhold and John Favreau, but John Favreau wasn't John Favreau
but
yet in that
he
episode.
wasn't
he
John.
wasn't, and who could tell who he was in the clown suit? I
Right,
mean, you
right. We
never
talked
saw him.
to
So
Melanie Charnoff, who was also in that episode.
yeah.
George's. We talked
Yeah,
to her as well.
and Melanie Smith was in the Raincoats. Yeah, I mean, there's just a cast of characters, like I said, that they always have the ability to shine. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you talking about Kramer saved it. It was just like it was just like perfect. Like I think you were cast perfectly, and I think Tony brought up earlier. I think it was probably a good thing that you didn't get that initial girlfriend role that might have just fizzled
Yeah,
out.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point. Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah.
So Lisa, what are you up to these days? I know you're still involved in acting. I know you're doing a lot of teaching. What else are you doing these days?
Uh well, actually, I I was going to tell you the story, but I've got Cruella de Vil hair, as you see. That was my big project during the pandemic, was letting my hair grow out because I think I'm going to go back blonde as I was in Seinfeld. Um, during the pandemic, I was completely antisocial, and I don't know how you guys fared. Were you okay? Did you do well?
Yeah, for the most part. But it was, that's why we started this pretty much when the pandemic hit, kind of as a thing to keep us,
To do.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you both in New York?
Yeah, I was in Jersey, but yeah, we're pretty much the New York, New Jersey area.
So I was really happy just staying in. I was really enjoying not have to deal, with anything. And so I told my agent, don't submit me on anything, because I would see pictures of my friends on Facebook or whatever. I'm working. It's the pandemic. I'm working. And they'd have the mask on and the shield on and the whole thing. And I just thought, that does not look like fun to me. That looks terrible,
Right.
and I don't feel safe and I don't want to do it. And my hair's weird and, I'm just not going to do it. So, right when I got my first vaccine, get your vaccine. Right when I got my first vaccine, I got a call from my agent, 2 auditions back to back. I hadn't even told him that I had been vaccinated yet. It's like psychically, he just picked up on it, right? And one of them was for this new show, Hacks, which is Gene Smart. I don't know if you've seen that. It's on HBO Max.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Did you
very
see
cool.
it? Have you seen it?
I've seen some clips and stuff about it, but yeah.
Yeah. She's unbelievable. So anyway, I ended up doing a self-tape. You see, I got my whole setup back here,
Yeah.
the whole thing, right? And learned how to do that, got my hair together, hid the brown. It was much longer, did a whole thing with the silver, and booked a job. And it was a small part. It was one scene with Gene, and with also, I don't know if you know this actress, Jane Addams. It was Gene Smart, Jane Addams, and this young girl who plays the kind of, what do you call it?
Caitlin
I don't
Olsen,
know.
was it or no?
What?
Was it Caitlin Olsen? The girl
No, that
from
she plays, I think she plays the
Lower East Side?
daughter.
Oh, okay.
It's Hannah Einbinder, who actually is the daughter, I just found out, the daughter of Lorraine Newman, I think.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, don't quote me on that because I don't know for sure, but I thought I just read that, which was interesting. She's a young girl and she ends up mentoring Gene Smart, who's, 69.
Right.
So this young hip, edgy comic is mentoring. So again, it's comics, right? Because Gene Smart is playing like a Joan Rivers kind of character,
Yep.
right, in
Yeah.
Vegas. Anyhow, another funeral scene. But I was like, okay, it's a small part, whatever. I don't care. It's the pandemic. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have fun. I got there. It was the greatest experience. I mean, it just turned everything around for me. You know how I'm always feeling, I don't feel funny. I'm not funny. I didn't feel funny there either, but the way it unfolded, they had us do a ton of improvisation. So I have no idea how much I'm going to be in this or how little or what the deal is, but it was so like supportive, and you just, as an actor, felt free to, like we were just talking about with the close talker and all that, to, do things, to like follow whatever instinct you have,
Right.
and Jean Smart could not, she's my new hero. She's a real salt of the earth, funny, she's sexy, she's great. And I don't know, I had a great time. So
That's so great to hear. This show is
yeah.
getting a ton of great reviews too, from what I'm seeing. I
Is
haven't
it?
seen it yet, but I'm gonna check it out. Yeah, I've like O'Hara said, I've seen it hyped a lot. I just haven't got a chance around to see it yet.
Well, all the producers and directors are super young. They're all like in their 20s, maybe early 30s, and they all come from improvisation. I think Comedy Central, they've done a lot of
Yeah,
shows.
Broad City. I'm looking.
Broad City,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
I know,
yeah.
Lisa.
Very
We're too busy watching Seinfeld reruns.
I
We
know.
gotta.
Yeah, you are. You got to keep up with all the trivia.
We're
Yeah,
we're middle. We're going through a midlife crisis doing a
but
Seinfeld
you
podcast.
know, here's the thing, Lisa. I think what you taught us is like you never know what life's going to throw at you. You never know who you're going to meet in a parking lot or who you're going to serve a burger to in a comedy club. And I think like you stayed true to yourself, and you've had a hell of a run, and we're really proud of you. And we're so glad you joined us for a few minutes tonight.
Oh, you're awfully sweet. Not bad for a girl from a small town in North Carolina, huh?
That's right.
I did all
Amen.
right.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We're gonna check out Hacks for sure now, and
Okay,
I'm
cool.
glad to hear that that came about. You had so much fun on it. It's awesome.
You
And like I
guys,
said, Lisa, when that Larry David email, pops up, you just shoot
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I will. As soon as I nail it down, I will. Yes. You guys were great. You were really fun, and you have to tell me how it goes with my ex.
Well, will do.
He
Thank
likes
you,
to
Lisa.
talk. I mean, I know I said I wouldn't have that much to talk about, but you guys made it easy, and I did a lot of talking. But I
Yeah.
mean, he's going to be like 10 times worse. He's going to talk your ear off. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Very
Thanks,
cool.
Lisa.
It
Thank
was
you so
fun
much.
talking
Yeah,
to you.
you too. Have a
See you
good
Take care.
later.
night. Thank you,
Bye.
Lisa.
Bye.
Thank-